all right. So I have what's this saying over here? 7:26 or something like that. So I'm gonna get started here at 7:30. Welcome, welcome everybody. Just getting set up. So I got it here on my phone. Then I got it right here, got my notes. So it looks like I'm all set up and ready to go here. So I have about 3 to 4 minutes and I'm going to get started here. So welcome to the mini masterclass, no debt and money in the bank members. This masterclass is for August the 12th, 2020, and it is emergency fund crisis. So you can see the picture says crisis, but it's called emergency fund, fantasy or reality. Yeah, yeah. So we're going to talk about it tonight. So we still got a few minutes here. And getting it set. Here. Okay. So come on in. Come on in. All right. So it's 7:30. My watch is a little bit slow. My phone is saying 7:30. My watch is a little bit slow here. But I'm do 1 minute and I'm gonna get started. And we're gonna get into the content here and be out. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and get started. So it's 7:30. I said that's when the mini master class will be starting. So I'm going to start at 7:30. So as people come in, you just come in and we'll go from there. So my name is Rita Oliver, as you know, the money strategist, CEO and founder of Strategies, Options, and Solutions. So welcome to the second mini master class here in August 2020 on emergency fund, fantasy or reality. Yeah, fantasy or reality. So, as you know, my name is Rita Oliver. I'm the money strategist, CEO, and founder of Strategies, Options, and Solutions, master financial coach. And I help professionals to organize their finances so that they can increase their monthly cash flow to save, pay off debt, and plan for retirement. So, let's talk about emergency fund, okay? The emergency fund. My title was Fantasy or Reality. So, you see on the screen here, I got the picture of the reality check and I got a picture of the fantasy. I'm here to tell you that the emergency fund is a reality. You need an emergency fund. The answer is yes. You need an emergency fund, and it's not a fantasy, it is a reality. I can say that probably for us living here in COVID today, particularly if you are not working, you're unemployed, a reality fund, emergency fund would definitely be a great real thing to have now in these times. But emergency fund is for any time anytime. So, reality or fantasy. You know, some people think that when things are going well, you don't need an emergency fund, but you do. You will always need an emergency fund because you have to ask the question, and we are in that now. How stable is your job really? For all of us, how stable is your job? And so when you need help in your family, that may be something for an emergency or things that are happening every day. And we're going to talk about that because an emergency does not give you a warning. It does not give you a warning. So an emergency fund is a reality. You must have it, and you need to have real dollars in the bank for it. Because emergency fund is about risk. You know, when you don't have one, you are taking a real risk with your life, taking a risk with your family's life. You know, an emergency fund is to keep you off the financial edge. Think about that. It's to keep you off the financial edge. Yeah. So nobody wants to be living on the edge of life, living on the edge of this. Because as I said, an emergency doesn't give you a warning. So you want to make sure that you've got a cushion because anything can happen. Remember last week in the class when I did that quote, that savings is for the what ifs of life, that emergency fund for those what ifs, those mishaps, those occurrences, those things unexpected so that you can get back to life, that you can pay for it and get back to your life. You know, you probably heard, or I think somebody asked a question last week about credit cards, several things with credit cards. So, you know, you may have read in some magazines, you know, that you could do, if your car needed repairs or if you had this or that, you could put that on a credit card. But let's say you have some medical bills and you put those on a credit card. Then let's say it turns into a full-blown crisis and you have also, that takes you out of the workforce, that you're not working, you're disabled. So how long, and you lost your job altogether. If you get seriously sick, the credit limit is not going to pay all those medical bills. Think about that. If you were to get something, become seriously ill, and you were using credit cards, the credit card limit is not going to pay all those medical bills. Granted, you may have insurance, but if you're not working, you may not have the insurance. So having an emergency fund to pay your bills is vital. It is vital. And definitely if you're laid off, you know, it's not guaranteed that you're going to find a job in a reasonable time. So then if you have the credit card, you're just burying yourself even deeper and deeper. But we know there are extenuating circumstances where you may need to use a card and something like this. But the key is this: if you listened to me and you were here last week, and if you were not, go back here in the group and see that. You know, we have to take the time now when we're working to really leverage what we have to grow more. So if you're working now here in COVID, you should be saving more money. As you find a job, if you're unemployed now and you find a job, you start saving money as soon as you can. So the definition of an emergency fund: for those unplanned expenses and unforeseen circumstances. In other words, life. Life. Those unplanned for expenses and unforeseen circumstances. Life. Life, ladies and gentlemen. That's why you need an emergency fund. The what ifs of life, just for life. It's for peace of mind that the worry is not there and you can take care of those unforeseen circumstances and those unplanned expenses. Bringing my quote back again from Miss Susie Orman: financial freedom, having the heart and mind worry-free from the what ifs of life. The what ifs of life. I can see it's a delay here when I change the, okay, there it is. It popped up. So, but I guess you can still hear me, but the slide, there's a delay there. So here's the big question. I'm going to wait till it changes on my phone, but I'm sure it's changing for you too if you're watching me live. So a big question I get a lot as a financial coach is, Rita, how much do I need in an emergency fund? How much do I need? So, you know, the rule of thumb has always been 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So let's talk about those living expenses, because if you were with me last week, we talked about fixed and we talked about variable. So that means your living expenses, your emergency fund would need to encompass the living expenses for both of those. That's the fixed and the variable, because they're not going to go away, because you those expenses stay with you regardless. So you need 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses that comprise your fixed and your variable expenses. So that means you need to go do what I said last week. Go follow your money. Go and follow your money. So the size of the emergency fund that you need, that depends on those fixed and variable expenses. So, the size that you need is based really on what you spend. That's why I'm telling you to look at the expenses. And so you got to count all of those critical expenses, all of those things that make up that month to month for you. That's the mortgage, that's rent payments, that's car payment, that's insurance, So then with those 3 to 6 months being the rule of thumb, also depends on the size of your thumb. Some people sleep well having 3 months. Some people sleep well having 6 months. I prefer 6 to 12 months of living expenses. So, if you become unemployed, it could take you 8 months to find a job or longer. So that's why I really say 3 to 12 months worth of living expenses. You got to think about, times have changed now. We've been in COVID here since March. We're in the 5th month. We started in March. We're now in August. So today is March 12th. Tomorrow is March 13th. Since the national shutdown, tomorrow will be 5 months. 5 months. Think about it. 5 months. So that means you have got to have money set aside for the unplanned expenses and the unforeseen circumstances. 3 to 6 months has always been the rule of thumb. That is something that you can do, and you got to work from there. Remember, I said last week, you got to start where you are. You got to start where you are, do what you can. So anything is better than zero. So you've got to start that emergency fund as soon as you can. If you don't have it now, you got to go and follow the money. Spend time following your money and create your emergency fund. So then the question comes up here. When you look at your life, remember I talked about your income last week. It's all about putting that balance in there, putting those priorities together. So when we talked about income, you know that you're earning it. We talked about growing it. So as it grows, you need to be saving it, and you're also going to be spending it. But we want to put the priority on saving it. And part of that saving is saving into an emergency fund. It is about leveraging your income when you are working. When you are working to put that, hey, Tamar, how are you? Good to see you up there in Seattle, Washington. So it's about leveraging that income when you're working as you're working to do better, to earn it and grow it. Remember, I said, you always want to be making 2 times your age, if at all possible, with your income. That's how you know you are growing your income. That was my gauge. That's been my gauge for a long time in life. So as you're earning it, we need to be saving it. And then, of course, you spend on those fixed expenses. And what are we going to do about the variable? We're going to start decrease the variable. So saving. Second question I get is, where do you put your emergency fund? Where do you put that money? You put it in a savings account. Okay. You put it in a savings account. Some people put it in money market accounts that pay a higher interest rate for the cash that they have in the bank. But for people who are just starting out, I would recommend just a regular savings account, because the thing is that you have to be able to access it. You have to be able to access it easily, because it's for an emergency. When you have an emergency, you need to be able to get to your money. You need to be able to get to your money. So I recommend a savings account that you put it there in your bank or your credit union so that you can easily access your money. Because it's all about, ladies and gentlemen, having liquidity. Having liquidity. Liquidity means that it's easily accessible and you can readily get that cash. So going to the bank to get the cash to pay for what you need for that emergency. So it needs to be liquid. You put it in something else, it could take you some time to get it. For yourself, if you can go to the bank, either transfer the money do whatever you need to do, or go there and withdraw the money. So it's about being liquid, that it's got to be liquid. So if you all have any questions, please drop them in the comments and I will answer them as we go along, or answer them at the end. So it's all about having liquidity, having the access that when an emergency happens, you can go get the money, you can take care of the emergency, you go back to having your peace of mind in life. Okay? So here's what I want to tell you, what you spend your money on for an emergency. Okay? So if you have a tire to blow out, y'all see the tire up there? And then also if you have a medical emergency. And then if you have something to break down with your appliances in your home, those are things that are an emergency, okay? They're an emergency. Remember, it is to keep you out, it's to help you not be walking on the financial edge. You know, having a tire blow out, flat tire is a common thing today. Having a medical emergency for yourself, for your family, your children, and then, you know, appliances, things are different today. Those things could go out. So your necessities like your stove, refrigerator, washing machine, those are emergencies. You go to your emergency savings to get that. Okay? You go to your emergency savings account to go and get that money. This is not an emergency. Okay? This is not an emergency. The sale. This is not an emergency. This is not something that you got to have, that you got to spend your money on. You don't go into the emergency fund to go get this, okay? You do not go in the emergency fund so that you can go and spend money at the sale. This is not an emergency. All right, Tamar. She said, what? That's right. You don't go in the emergency fund for this. The masterclass next week, Tamar, is going to talk about this. It's called Pleasure and Leisure. Yes, I did buy those shoes. We're going to talk about this next week, pleasure and leisure. So this is not for the emergency fund. Neither is the home remodel. This is not an emergency. This is something you save for and plan for in a different account. This is not an emergency. Okay? This is a kitchen remodel is not an unforeseen circumstance. A kitchen remodel is not an unplanned expense. Okay? So it is about making smart decisions here. It's about the priority and what goes with what. An emergency is usually about something with your home, your body. That is an emergency, your car. Think about what I said last week, the 4 walls: food, shelter, transportation, clothing. That's emergency. But because we're at home in COVID, you don't need a lot of clothes now. So food, if you're not working and you have some savings and you have to go into your emergency account, yeah, that's an emergency. Yeah, that's an emergency there. Transportation, that is an emergency. But a kitchen remodel and going to a sale is not an emergency. So I want to talk to you about balance here, because what I started last week in talking to you about savings, and I want to talk to you about this and talk to you about balance and balancing everything out. So when we look at savings, we've got several types of savings here. So last week we talked about the regular savings account, and now we're talking about emergency. Emergency is really your short term, okay? That's your short term savings, meaning as we talked, just as I just said, 3 to 6 months to 8 months, 12 months. In the financial world, anything for a year or less is considered short term, okay? Long term is over a year out to 5, 10 years. So long term, you know, I tell people you need to have a long-term savings. That long-term savings can be something to do that kitchen remodel, okay? To do that kitchen remodel. So you can put money in there as you start to build this, because as you build this to your 3 to 6 months or 3 to 12 months, or what, based on your variable and fixed expenses, the total, then you can start to work on this, okay? Remember I said it's all about priority. Hi, Vanessa, how are you? Thank you for coming. It's all about priority. And then here, the IRA, individual retirement accounts, your 401k, if you're working, you have that, 403b or 457b. These things here are savings that are specifically for retirement and out in the future. They're even longer term. Go back. They're even longer term. They're even for a longer term than this one. So we're focused last week on just basic savings. You starting to save money. And then the emergency, your short term. Once you fully fund this, then it's time to go to the long term. And then the IRA and 403B, I'll be talking about that August 26th when I do the master class on retirement. Priorities. That's a favorite word for me. It's about priorities, ladies and gentlemen. What is your priority? My priority is my health and well-being and peace of mind. See, because when you have that money in that emergency fund, you're saying that you've got a reserve that you're self-funding. It's basically, even though it may be in a savings account, earning a very low interest rate, it's giving you freedom and it's giving you safety. And to me, that is priority and very, very important. So the priorities are how you establish how you want to do your money. What is important to you and where should my money be going? Here, because the basis of all my mini master classes that I've been doing, the last one I started last week, this is the second one on emergency, it's about showing you how to balance everything with your life here. And how, when you earn your money, how your money should be building and growing for you and where you still enjoy life. Because I think you enjoy life much more when you have peace of mind that you can take care of those unforeseen circumstances and those unplanned expenses and still get what you want. And also know that you're taking care of your household, paying your living and variable expenses at the same time. This is about that balance. That's why I built these mini master classes on that. So here's you in the center. This is you, and you're earning that income. Remember, and I said you want to always be making 2 times your age. That's to know your income is growing, because your income should be growing as you are growing, as you are getting older. Then, of course, you have the expenses in life, those expenses, the fixed and the variable. And then you have your emergency savings. Your savings, emergency should be a fixed expense. Did you catch that? Your emergency savings, that allocation should be a fixed expense. Okay, when we're talking fixed and variable expenses, this should be a fixed expense. Once you fund this fully, as I just said, you can work on the long-term savings. That's another one. And then we're going to talk next week, pleasure and leisure. It's about your wants. All of this stuff right here is to take care of your needs. Okay. This is to take care of your needs. Here's you're making money, take care of your expenses, your living, give you money for emergencies. And then, of course, as you get paid, we're going to talk about retirement in the last week. This is important as well. But this is about taking care of your needs here. Pleasure and leisure is about your wants. But there's nothing to say that you can't have what you want. It's all about priority. It's all about putting it away for that. That's what you want to do. And that's what I'm going to show you next week. So it's about the balance and building blocks of your life, of your income and your expenses. Because the key, as I told you last week, the more that you minimize the expenses, particularly the variable, you are going to have more money to put in all of this right here. That's the key. Because last week I told you it's about a process called, it's the process. It's about your strategy. Where's my money going? Here's the strategy right here, ladies and gentlemen. This is it. Okay. Then it's about accountability. You got to be accountable to yourself right here. You are in the center and creating all of this. Then it's about implementation, that you got to have it done automatically. If you allocate it and say what the amount is, you got to have it done automatically. As I said, your emergency fund should be a fixed expense. It should be going to that account even before you get any money, before you see your money here, your income. All of that should be done. And you take care of those expenses. You take care of your wants and needs. Then it's about the destination. The destination, ladies and gentlemen, is the destination is that you have what? That freedom, that safety. You can pay for those what ifs in life, those unforeseen circumstances. You pay for your living expenses. You take care of some of the variables. You have your pleasure and leisure, and you're doing things in the long term, saving for that car, saving to remodel that house, and you plan to save for that retirement. Put it all together: process, accountability, implementation, and destination. Paid. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how you get paid. That's how you pay yourself and you take care of yourself. How do you figure it out what to do? So you can figure it out by contacting me. Now, Tamar Bowens, that's on here. Tamar, I did her plan for her. And so Tamar hopefully is still working it. Now, she and I have not talked in a while because she told me she needed to do some other things there. But we'll get back and talk, because I realize people have to sometimes work it out for themselves, because what I give you is totally different than what you've been doing. And so it takes you a while to process it. But how do you figure it out and get it together where you live that freedom and safety and everything is set up and allocated automatically? That's when you come and talk to me about how to figure it out. And you can message me here in the group. You can go to my website, the bit.ly link there. And when you do that and get on my email list, you will get my free ebook, The ABCs of Personal Finance. And of course, you can send me a direct message. So I did these mini classes. I'm doing these mini classes in the group No Debt, Money in the Bank, because that is the goal of this for you, is to have no debt and have money in the bank. I want you to think about that phrase for a minute. No debt, money in the bank. What would that mean to you? What would that do for you? It would give you everything you need to be able to do what you want and do what you need and a lot more of what you want, because you've got that balance and you've set the priority in your life and the priority for your money. Money doesn't come with any instructions, you all. That's why we have to direct it. So I want to tell you, thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. You can go back and watch the replay. So if you have any questions, just please drop them in the comments, or if you want to talk to me privately about something, you can message me and I'll be happy to answer it for you. As I said, these mini master classes are to help you. I really believe here in COVID, and I said it last week, I'll say it again. You know, we have been shut down now for 5 months. Tomorrow will be 5 months since March 13th, since the national declaration. And so COVID has given us the opportunity, I believe, to take the time to get clarity, get reset, and really take deep dives into our lives, into the many facets of our lives, professionally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and definitely, you know, for me, I'm going to say financially. It's about time for you to invest some time to follow that money. To follow that money. You got to follow your money. You got to know where it's going. And the two places you got to look: fixed expenses and variable expenses. The variable is what you can change, is what you can change. And that's what, and once you start changing that, you're going to start to change you and see a whole lot of stuff open up for you. Okay. So I want to thank you so much. If you have questions, thank you also for the comments. Thank you for the hearts and the thumbs up. Thank you for coming tonight. So if you have questions, just drop them in the comments and we can go from there. I'll be happy to answer them. And as I said, if you don't want to do that, then we most certainly, you can message me and we can answer the questions privately. So I'll hang for about a minute or two, see if we got some questions. And if not, I'm going to close it down. And then you can go back and watch the replay and you can say, what do I need to do? Because ladies and gentlemen, it's all about you knowing that you are secure and safe. And so if you're not now, you got to do something totally different than what you're doing now. It's not going to change for you tomorrow, but you got to take that gradual step. You start little by little. As I said, you start where you are, you do what you can. That's how you get it done. All right. So thank you so much. So I'm looking over here. So got 4 people on. So let me know if you have any questions or comments, or if my next mini masterclass will be next week, where we talk about our wants. It's called Pleasure and Leisure. Yes, I did buy those shoes. So we're going to talk about how to get that. Remember, I showed you the graphic about it's all about the balance of taking care of you, those facets in your life. Okay, so I'm looking here. Well, I'll tell you what, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your night tonight. This is a mini masterclass. I'm Rita Oliver. I'm the money strategist, the CEO and founder of Strategies, Options, and Solutions. I'm a master financial coach, and I help professionals to organize their finances so that you can increase your cash flow to save, eliminate debt, and plan for retirement. So take care. Have a blessed evening, and I'll see you next week. Same time, Wednesday night, 7:30 Central Standard Time for pleasure and leisure. Yes, I did buy those shoes. All right. So thank you so much, everybody, and take care. Have a blessed evening.